Today we're talking about the ways that you can experience greater fulfillment in your life. Welcome to the Fierce Authenticity Podcast, where we talk all things life, love, and leadership with a spiritual and racial justice twist. I'm your hostess, Shirani M. Batak, and I'm so excited that you're here. If you're a returning listener, I want to honor and acknowledge you for showing up week after week and experiencing the miracles that are possible when you open your heart to receiving these messages here. And if you're new, then you are in for a treat. Here we talk about things that are real. We talk about taking off the masks, how to land in a soft space, how to show up with integrity and authenticity, and how that as by doing so, you get to experience greater fulfillment, greater joy, and greater ease. Whether you're returning or new, if you haven't already done so, then I want to invite you to join our newsletter community. www.fierceauthenticity.com/start here is where you can go in order to join our community. And the thing that I love most about our community is that every week that I record a solo episode, you receive a bonus, really short practice that goes in partnership with that week's episode. And that practice or that short little love note supports you in just further deepening what it is that we talk about here. So head on over to www.fierceauthenticity.com/start here so that you can join the newsletter community completely free. And with that, we're going to get into today's episode. If you listened to last week's, you know that I was having a really, really hard time recording this very episode. So I surrendered to flow instead of trying to force and hustle my way through. And what ended up happening, I had a feeling this would happen, is I was able to record that episode on boundaries so easily, so clearly, so just beautifully. It was the download that my higher power has been wanting me to share with you. And I had a feeling that as soon as I cleared that backlog of information, the information for this episode would start to flow. And sure enough, here we are with the episode I kept trying to record for you last week. And today what we're talking about is if you don't feel very fulfilled, if you feel burnt out, if you feel like there's something missing, if you just feel that there's some blah going on in your life and you know that you're not living your life to its fullest capacity, you're tired all the time, or you're always chasing that next thing, that's what today's episode is going to address. And I'm just going to get right into it. I'm going to start with those truth bombs and simply share with you right off the bat that if you're feeling unfulfilled, unsatisfied, and like you're constantly chasing the next thing, it is because you have made other people, places, achievements, things your higher power. You have put all of those false idols that you pray to in the place of where a divine higher power needs to be and where a divine higher power belongs. And so let me paint the picture for you in terms of what I mean when I say that. One of the ways that I became such an expert in relationships, not just romantic relationships, but all relationships, just human relationships in general, is because there was a time that I struggled really hardcore in relationships. I was always chasing after the next guy or the next thing and making them and that my higher power. I didn't know it at the time. Of course not. I didn't learn that until I got deep into my own spiritual journey and on my own recovery path. But basically, I would do anything to be with those people or to get that positive attention and affirmation, whether it be through the guys or my grades or the accolades. No matter what it was, I was constantly hustling, and trying to achieve the experience of that next thing. And you see, when doing that, there's no room for a higher power to operate, or a divine higher power instead. Because what you've done is you've made all of these human and material things the power, the thing to strive for, the thing to get. Only when you get it, like when you get the relationship, or when you get the great grades, or when you get the letters after your name, when you get it, you still don't feel that excitement or that satisfaction. Or if you do feel it, it's very, very short-lived. And most of the time, especially if it's hustling to achieve the grades, the promotion, the thing that's going to get you that fancy car, then you're probably also really exhausted. You are probably really exhausted through the whole process, thereby not getting to experience the joy and the satisfaction and the fulfillment that you were hoping to. And this reminds me of a phrase, a saying they have in the 12-step recovery community, talking about the God-shaped hole that you're trying to fill with all of these people, places, achievements, cars, houses, shoes, boats, all those things. Which is why when you get the thing that you thought you wanted, you still don't feel satisfied. You still don't feel fulfilled. And more than likely, that you feel exhausted instead of experiencing the joy, the happiness, and the satisfaction that you thought you would when you achieved or attained that thing, whatever that thing might be. And the thing is, you're not alone in this experience. I mean, literally, there are communities of people who come together to support one another through this exact experience of seeking outside of ourselves for what only a higher power can provide for us and what a higher power can fulfill. Because let's get real, other people are human, they're fallible, they can't be our everything. And the same is true of our achievements, the titles, the jobs. Any of those things can be taken away in any given moment. They can just poof, be gone. Your company downsizes, you get laid off, or they simply decide they're going in a different direction. The house can burn down, the car can crash. All sorts of things can happen. But the one thing that is stable and steady and constant is the love and care and safety and protection that only a divine higher power can provide. Which is why, if you're feeling unfulfilled, despite having all the things that you thought you wanted and living the life that you thought you dreamed, if you still feel unfulfilled despite all of that, then it's because you've made all of those things your higher power and put them in the place of where your divine higher power, a God, goddess, spirit divine of your understanding, needs to be. And the good thing is, there is a way through that. And the way through that is everything that we've been talking about in the last several episodes, which is about remembering your relationship with your divine source of love. And let's not just say love, it is truly unconditional love that comes from a divine higher power. And so when you start to remember your relationship with that higher power, when you remember that power is with you at all times because that power is within you, then miraculously things start to shift and you start to experience more love and joy and fulfillment in your life. Because you're no longer basing your happiness and your worth and your value based on all of those other outside things, but instead, you're focusing on that which lives within. You're focusing on the relationship with you and with a higher power, a God of your understanding. And when you've been able to do that, well, we're human. We're never going to be 100% perfect at that. But as you begin to do that, and as you begin to experience what that feels like, you will never, ever, ever again have to place so much value and seek this validation and this happiness from any person, place, or thing outside of you, including your titles, your achievements, and what projects you've brought to completion. All of that will just be the icing on the cake, the cherry on top. All of that gets to be the extras that make life just a little bit sweeter. Because you know deep down inside that what's between you and what's between you and your higher power is what is the most important in feeling the love, the joy, the fulfillment, and the satisfaction that you want to feel in your life. So next time you find yourself feeling unsatisfied or unfulfilled, check in with yourself, get quiet, and get honest. Are you making those other things or those other people or those other achievements your higher power and putting them in the place of a God of your understanding? And once you get honest with yourself, then you can readjust and course correct as necessary. And as a reminder to support you with this, go to www.fierceauthenticity.com/start here to sign up for our newsletter community, where you will receive the bonus episode that partners with this episode to support you in taking this even deeper. Again, that's www.fierceauthenticity.com. And with that, be well, and we'll be back together again next week. Take really good care. I want to take a moment to honor and acknowledge the amazing support team that helps make this podcast possible for you. Starting with Diego Velazquez, our podcast editor and the artist who created our custom music. Ana Olvina, my assistant, who creates all of our beautiful graphics and the transcript for every episode, which you can find over at www.fierceauthenticity.com. Vijana Sandich, who writes our amazing show notes so well that I bet you couldn't tell it wasn't me. Jillian at Epoxy Studios, whose photography is our cover art and pretty much every other image you see of me on social media. My husband, who puts up with me when it's 11:30 p.m. on a Sunday night and I'm like, hey babe, I gotta record a podcast episode right now. Is that okay? And lastly, I want to acknowledge my higher power, whose wisdom flows through me to bring these messages to you. I'm sending you so much love, and we will be together again soon.